So, hopefully you can see me on the screen. Hello everyone, hello Brazil, hello Hackademia. My name is Sophie Bailey and I am the founder and presenter of the Edtech podcast, which you can find on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Pocket Cast and many other pocket hosting websites. So, Hackademia very kindly invited me to do a series of video clips about EdTech in the UK and the European view on things, should I say. Which brings me on nicely to this week's episode, which is based on what Brexit means for EdTech. So before we start, a little bit about the setting. I'm recording this in the Olympic Park in East London. Behind me is Here East, which is part of our Olympic legacy. So Here East is a huge digital and creative industry space, and so they have things in there like a huge makers fair, the UCL Institute of Robotics, and I thought that would be quite interesting as a starter given your own Olympics coming up very soon. So to go back to Brexit, what does this mean for EdTech? Well, 3 themes that I've picked out of hundreds that could be discussed currently are London's place in the EdTech scene, the skills gap, and what this means for young people and how EdTech potentially could be a solution. So the first one, London's scene in EdTech. Currently our UK Prime Minister has just resigned. We have over 30 MPs of the opposition party have resigned. The pound is at a 31-year low. And there are divisions among the country for sure. In London we have 200 EdTech startups with 1,000 across the UK. And globally that sets us as a hub for EdTech. There is a huge amount of innovation comes out of here. There are investors, we have some of the best higher education institutions in the world, and there are accelerators and much more. And a government who have recognised high growth industries, shall we say. So I think for digital, EdTech represents 4%. Quite sizable given what we're talking about, and EdTech being relatively in its early stages. So from that point of view, London as a hub for EdTech won't be undone very easily. However, the UK education exports industry is worth £17.5 billion a year, and the government had quoted an aspirational figure of £30 billion by 2020. So in terms of that pace, it remains to be seen whether that will continue. But the main thing for the moment for international players and those in London, I believe, is to open that dialogue. So to find out, what are your partners, distributors, what are your schools, what are your universities, how are they thinking about this? And I think it's very early days. There is quite an appetite to moderate this decision from where I'm sat in London, surely. So number 2, the skills gap. So the skills gap was already an issue in the UK. Our focus on science, technology, engineering, maths is well documented, sometimes to the detriment of those humanities subjects. But there is a feeling that we must be well placed in these areas to meet the needs of the next generation, and with automation on the horizon, etc., etc. The EU had the Agenda for New Skills and Jobs as part of the Europe 2020 strategy, and funding was allocated to its member states around the skills gap area accordingly. And if the UK does pull back from the EU, then there will be a loss of funding in that space. So that will be an issue, given that at the same time where we are filling that skills gap currently with international expertise, that is going to be challenged as well. So not a pretty picture on the skills gap front, but on the other hand, companies that have deliberately recognised this issue and set forward perhaps more agile edtech offerings around programming, other digital skills innovation, such as the Makers Academy or decoding and that kind of thing, arguably could find themselves even better placed as students become much more savvy about needing either employment or expertise to start their own startups at the end of that process. So one to watch on that front. The third, I think, and most important aspect is connecting young people to opportunity and tolerance. So, it was resoundingly young people that voted to remain, but it will be those that are live through the implications of this decision. At the moment, there is real deep division in the country, and that needs to remain on the right side of being tolerant. And can EdTech actually help by, whilst there are divisions, offering a window out onto the world, onto different ways of doing things, connecting people together, and especially if we've suddenly become a country outside of the EU, allowing connections, those potential connections that would have happened in a different way to flourish online. Having said that, at the same time, does EdTech suffer that from being London-centric, from being city-centric, from perhaps being that elitist charge that people have discussed in relation to this divide between London and the rest of the country. Anyway, I'd be really, really happy to hear your thoughts on this, whether EdTech is really manifesting and having great benefits throughout the countries that you're watching this from Brazil, and whether you have any experiences on that. And until next time, thank you for watching.